welcome back to another episode of the Black Undergrad Perspective Podcast. I know it's been a minute, but we're back and better than ever. We have some nice guests here, special guests. I'm Brianda, you guys know me, finance major, junior.
I'm Janera, I'm an early ed major, I'm a sophomore.
I'm Ange, I'm a sociology major and I'm a freshman.
I'm Jaden, business admin major, and I'm a sophomore.
I'm Nadia, psychology major, and I'm a sophomore.
And I'm Candace, I'm the associate dean of students.
Perfect. So, in honor of Women's History Month, we're gonna have an all women's episode. And the first question I'm gonna ask you guys is, what does it mean to be a woman to you?
To be a woman to me, I guess, is just being myself, unapologetically happy, confident, independent.
Bouncing off of Ange, it's just being true to yourself, knowing who you are, just being powerful.
When I think about womanhood, I think about strength. So I think it's just, I don't know that I have anything additional to say. It's not from that, and just being authentically you.
Yeah. I would say I agree with them. Being powerful, that's the first word that comes to my mind with being a woman.
I also agree, just like being myself.
Now, kind of like going off your answers from that, what about being a Black woman? What is that? Any differences in what that means?
Patience. Being patient with yourself and patient with others.
I agree with very patient.
I feel like the world would not exist without Black women. Like I feel like when I think about social movements, I think about Black women. When I think about creativity, I think about Black women. When I think about just like impact and influence, I think about Black women. Like we have influenced every part of this world that we don't get the credit for. So I just think about how we are behind a lot of the things that people now have taken hold of. So that's dope to be a Black woman.
Being a Black woman is just, I like what Candace said, like we're literally the basis like behind everything. Like everybody's like going off of what we do. And so I feel like we're just strong in that sense. We wouldn't be here without us.
I agree with everyone. I think also adding, like, you kind of have to think a little bit more than other people do about the way that you present yourself, and just like your actions.
What do you think that is?
I mean, people are just intimidated, like, think we're like too loud or too much or too strong or too opinionated.
Now, that's perfect to lead into my next question. What is it like being in leadership positions as a woman, and specifically a Black woman? And preferably say like what leadership positions you've had in your experience with that.
In my past, I've been president of my high school spike student union for 3 years, and in that position, it was so hard to try and get like people to listen to me and to take me serious and to just like the things I was saying, like this is real, like this needs to be done, and it just felt like I was just talking to the walls, like there was no one that was listening. But on the other hand, I do feel like at some points when I would get angry and then be like, why aren't you listening? And they would see me as like an angry person, and that's just not me. So I guess, I mean, that was my experience.
I feel like out of PWI you see it a lot. I feel like me, preferably like in the education department, whereas I see like myself getting roles that are diverse roles, and it's like, are you just picking me because I'm a person of color and you think that I'm supposed to speak for all people of color? Like most of the roles I've had in the education department, I read it and I'm like, oh, something about diversity. I'm like, okay. So I know like my job basically is, I feel like it's to advocate. I feel like that is what I'm supposed to do, but not to everyone. I feel like that's a lot of pressure in like the leadership role. It's like they expect you to be that person for everyone. You know?
Yeah. I kind of agree with that. I feel like a lot of the times, like even with corporate, like you see a black woman and it's like, oh yeah, perfect for HR. This is my person that's gonna do diversity and all that kind of stuff. And I feel like it's a box that people would just naturally put us in, and it's kind of frustrating because it's like, oh, I can do this and that, but you want me to. It's kind of like you said, conflicting because you want to be that advocate and like, yeah, I want to put on for my people, but it's at the same time, like that's not just what I can do.
Yeah.
I also feel like off that, like,
Can you be a little louder? Sorry.
sorry, yeah. So like, off of what you said of like them putting you in a box, I think also sometimes like I'll stay in that box. Like I'll be like, okay, you don't want me to do that? Okay, I won't. Even though I know that I can do more, sometimes I'll be like, okay, whatever. It's okay.
Like being put in that box, like I don't want to be perceived like as the negative things that black women are always perceived as. So I'll just like, okay, yeah, like a yes man.
Yeah.
I think every leadership position that I've been in higher ed, I have always been like hyper aware of my identity because I've always been one of the few black people in general on my staff, at the institution. And so there's always felt like there's been this spotlight on me. So I'm always more attentive to, similar to what you all said about how I speak, but the tone of which I speak, even how I wear my hair, how I dress, like all of those things I am super aware of because I'm always sensitive to the fact that people may not take me seriously, not only because I'm a black woman, but also because I'm young. And so like all of these combined, I'm over here feeling like I have to overcompensate for. But then I got to a point where I was just like, y'all don't take me as I am because I'm like tired of trying to negotiate parts of myself to make other people feel uncomfortable when they don't care. Like people can show up as they are, be who they are and all of their personality and not think twice about it. But that is my everyday of having to be mindful of how people perceive me and try to shape that. And it's just really unfair. It's an added burden. It's exhausting because I'm already trying to advocate and serve students while also trying to advocate for myself. So it's just there's these complexities to being a black woman working in spaces like this.
Yeah. Kind of like going back to just the woman aspect, do you feel that sometimes, like you said, not being taken serious, that you have to, like it's always like, I don't know if you guys have had like a woman, I don't want to sound like saying all women do this, but like a woman principal where like she's like extra stern, extra mean. Do you think that happens because people don't take women as serious?
Yeah, I think they feel like they have to assert themselves more to get the respect that they should already be.
And then they call her mean.
And then they call her mean, and she's labeled.
Yeah.
Have you guys experienced that like firsthand?
Like me in that situation, or like having a female?
You in that situation? Yeah. Can you go into detail?
Well, in high school, my basketball team, for example, I was like the only one that cared. So whenever I was like, you guys need to care, and then eventually was put in that position where I needed to be stern. And then everyone's like, oh, she's mean, she's overdoing it, overcompensating, over just being too much. And I feel like that was a situation position. Yeah, I think 100%.
Yeah.
I don't think that I've ever been in that position. Yeah, I don't think I've ever had like a female that was like that because I just grew up and you have like male principals and male staff, like as far as like hiring, so I don't,
Well, like you personally, have you found yourself having to?
No. I don't think so.
Do you think it's because of who you are as a person?
I think that's who I am as a person. Yeah. I feel like I'm just seen as being so nice. I don't feel like people think that I have a mean side, so I just like I'm just not like people not gonna take me serious, so I don't even try. Like I know that if I was to be mean, people would be like, girl, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? So I don't even try at that point.
I think kind of with me, with sports and stuff, I feel like when I was younger, I used to try to like, you know, how they say girls can't do that, girls can't do that. I used to be like, you know, in gym class trying to go try hard, you know, just like, you know, it pays off. I mean, college plays. Yeah. I feel like with that, it's just like, even with like women's basketball, any women's sports, like everyone just hates on it so much, and it's like, boys are like, oh yeah, I can do this and that. I'm like, do you want a cookie? Like, they're performing and competing just like you are. I don't see why there's like any kind of, like if you love a sport, you're going to be entertained by it no matter who's playing it, especially at a high level. Any personal examples?
I mean, in high school, like everybody knew like that I was loud. I was gonna. I think everyone knew like. This is gonna sound bad, but they thought that I knew what was right. So I feel like I didn't really go through anything like that in high school because I kind of was. I was a loud, like outgoing, talkative person. So people were like, "Oh, let me listen to her. Let me see what she has to say." But definitely here, I think whenever I came to college, not on purpose, but I kind of just like shrunk a little bit, and it's been hard for me to like try and be what I used to be, just because it's like it's college, like it's different, and I don't want to come off like the wrong way or look bad or look mean or look like I want to like control everything, so I just haven't tried.
So again, you had to hold yourself back because of other people's.
Yeah, kind of.
I haven't been in a situation where I had to be that assertive person because I'm just a laid back type person. Like if something actually really bothered me and it takes a while for that to happen, then I'll say something. But like mostly I'm just like, okay, we can do that unless like I think of actually better idea.
I feel like maybe early on in my career in higher ed, I think I felt like I did, especially as like a resident director. I started off in residence life, and I felt like I had to be like strict. So I did become that like strict person, and I didn't like who that was because I felt like it just wasn't me. It wasn't naturally who I was, but I did feel that pressure to do it. Now I feel like I can always like sense when like a student already assumes that I might be mean, and so I feel like usually where I'm trying to be overly nice to, you know what I mean, at some instances, because I'm just like, what is that vibe that I'm getting, and I think it is the projection of like who they think I may be to them. So I do find myself kind of like trying to figure that part out. Sometimes. Yeah.
Lastly, what situation triggered you guys to turn it around and say, maybe I don't want to hold myself back?
That's good. I think just growing and getting older and just realizing that this, like, everybody else is taken. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I should be everything who I was created to be and walk in that, and people are just gonna have to be okay with that, because I shouldn't have to navigate this world always trying to negotiate who I'm gonna be in certain spaces. Like, that's just unfair, and I just think I'm just tired of fighting that. Like, it just gets to a point where you're just like, nah, I'm not doing that because it's to whose benefit, because certainly not mine. And I think people are missing out on the truth of who people are when you feel like people are always presenting as something else. So I think we have a responsibility really to operate as we are.
Yeah. I mean, like, honestly, we're not to, like, be, on your team or nothing, but like, Candace, I feel like you've inspired me to actually, like you said, stand in what I am and who I want to be. Because even with, like, BSU, how I expressed how I didn't want to be president because, I need, like, a guy to be on the board to be that assertive or whatever, but looking at you, you sit there and be that, and you're her, and you do that so well, it makes me feel like I can do it too. So that's my example.
Okay. I feel like mine were like two places. I feel like the first place was junior year of high school when I went to like a PWI high school as well, and one of the white girls, we got into like a small like disagreement, and she had said something about ghetto black girls, and that's when I was like, hold on, like, hold on, I did it in a respectful way, but that's when I was really like, okay, I'm not gonna let this slide. And I feel like the second way was coming here and being in BSU and seeing and hearing about what we were talking about and understanding that we have voices that need to be heard and that we shouldn't have to put ourselves in that little box or hide who we are because of what other people think. Because at the end of the day, we're all grown, and if you don't like it, well, that's fine. But I feel like as Black women or people of color in general, we need to like make sure our voice is heard. So I feel like that's like what I've become like very like not known for, but I feel like that's what I'm like growing as I'm like knowing my voice matters and I'm expressing that.
I also went to like a PWI high school, and I think it was different there because I grew up with these people, and I was always like an outgoing person. But then coming here to a fresh slate of brand new people I've never met before, I found myself just like not holding myself back, but almost hiding my full personality of like outgoing, just being myself. And then when I did come to BXU and even like meet you and all that, and meet all you guys, it was just like everyone was being themselves, and just being surrounded by people who were themselves made me realize like, why am I hiding myself? And then if people don't like you for being yourself, then they just don't need to be around. And I guess that was really my awakening.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Candace of like just as I'm getting older and getting deeper into like my college experience, I'm just like, why it doesn't matter. Like I'm not here to please other people. Like I'm here to learn. I'm here to have my own experiences and just grow as a person. So why am I gonna let other people control me? And it's like a everyday type. Like I have to tell myself that because it is hard to like be yourself because people are telling you like you're too this, you're too that. It's like, sorry, not sorry. Like I mean, I don't know.
I would say when I started like actually being assertive, I guess, is when like quarantine, and I like realized like before I used to like be funny when people like needed me to be funny, like serious when people needed me to be serious. But then it's like, why am I trying to satisfy what they need and not me? So then like after that time, I'm like, okay, I don't care. Like I'm gonna like say the most out of pocket stuff, and then you're gonna take it how you take it. It is what it is at that point.
Okay, I have one last thing to say. So, would you guys agree with me to say like a lot of a major thing that contributed to this positive change was really sometimes Caucasian friends, being that like some bad apples could ruin like the whole bunch, and it was like seeing that most of your white friends are like, hey, this is actually good, or I actually like when you did this, and it's like, oh, you didn't think I was like you said, a ghetto Black girl that did this and that, or you didn't think that, like seeing that we had our horrible experiences, but knowing that we have our allies that like in the Caucasian race that understand that we're different, they're gonna accept us as we are, like coming who we are, like, oh, that's just him, that's just Bree, or that's just Candace, but accepting you as your Bree or as your Candace. And it's like they're not thinking those negative thoughts that we think and then them giving us that positive feedback saying like, like I'll show somebody my music and they'll be like, oh, this is actually good, like I understand what you're saying, I like what you're saying. And they're not thinking like, oh, you're another African American kid or Black kid that's rapping about this and that. They're like, oh, I see you put your expression in yourself, and I like that. And it's not the negative thoughts that a lot of people, of course, bad apples that put into our heads. So that's would y'all agree with me to say that?
Honestly, I think the way I look at it is, as far as your question, I think that I'm not looking for validation from any race.
Right.
Maybe my own, I look for that, but to me, it's what it is. So I just think naturally sometimes it's inevitable. So
yeah, for sure. But do you work on removing yourself? Because maybe it was just a crowd. Do you understand what I'm saying? Do you ever think that maybe you just have to remove yourself and put yourself in a different room to really be around people that support you? It's not really looking for affirmation, but understanding that whatever feedback you're getting, whether you want it or not, you're reacting to it.
yeah.
So, do you think moving your environment helps that at all, or do you still think like you just don't look for validation?
I mean, definitely. Like, obviously, a lot of people share that BSU has been a place where they, you know, became themselves and like were comfortable being themselves. So I think that plays a part into it. What you think? What do you think?
Oh, I agree. Yeah, I definitely feel like putting yourself in an environment around people who are like you and not necessarily like you, but are in that positive, like, accepting attitude or like, respect. Like, if you put yourself around people who are negative and don't accept you, that you're gonna get that outcome. So,
Can you say your question again?
No, I guess I should have phrased it better the first time, but basically saying that although we don't look for validation, like being there, sometimes the closest people that can be the most negative person. So, like even outside of the race thing, being that I was just keeping it in the like women, black women, like if we're putting it in the sense of black women, like knowing you can wear your hair whatever, and knowing that that white friend is not gonna in her mind subconsciously just think, oh, why she got her hair like that? Oh, you know what I'm saying? Like just knowing that, like, and then like knowing that those friends that tell you like, oh, I love your hair, like knowing subconsciously that that's what they think, positivity.
I just feel like I feel like it's hard to do that based on experience. Based on that, it wasn't just one white person that did this or one white girl. When it's multiple, then it's harder to trust. It's harder to get yourself out of that box and say, well, they're all not like that, because they're not. But it's hard to do that based on experience when you haven't had positive experiences. Why try at that point?
So it's the environment, you would say.
I think it's the environment, but also think it's personal experiences, and I think it's yourself. You don't want to keep hurting yourself. So if you keep seeing that these people are saying these things or doing these things, why are you gonna be like, okay, like put yourself in that situation at that point? So I feel like it's based on experience and if how the experience has been with people.
So you're saying you should remove yourself. Would you not remove yourself? Are you saying some people don't have control?
Yeah, you can take a control over who you're around and you surround yourself by. I surround myself at a PWI around black people because that's what I feel comfortable around. That's what I feel comfortable around. We go through similar things. I just feel like I can relate better to them than to black people. I think it's based on experience and how you grow up and other things like that. But that's how I feel personally.
Yeah, I feel like it's for me. It's hard to escape. I just feel like it's just my lived experience, and it's just gonna be my experience as long as I live here and work here. But so I don't expect to have certain level of support that I think that I need as a black woman. Like I find that at places. I find that with my friends. I find that with my family. So yeah, it is an environment thing where I know where to go, where I need to be filled. Because here in some spaces, like I'm not. So like I think about how the ways that I get filled are honestly from y'all. Like y'all fill me up in ways that not even my coworkers can do for me. You know. So like I think there's. I'm very mindful of how much time I spend in certain places when I can.
I would say I didn't start like feeling that way until I came here because I never really had an experience where like a white person like says something like what's it called? It's like the racist term, but it's not. It's microaggression. Yeah. Like microaggressions. Like I never felt that before until I came here, and now I'm like, oh, I need to be like more cautious, like where I put my like time in. So I feel like it's like opposite.
I agree. I agree with like everyone in the sense that it is like an environment. Like obviously, I'm not gonna place myself in a space where people have this like preconception of me, and there's no way for me to change that. So like I do surround myself around like people who treat me like I'm just like everybody else, and like lift me up rather than like pull me down.
I think a big part of that is would be like being strong in yourself, because you can't change what people think, and you can't let them see that you're affected by how they think. So Thank you for, thank you guys for coming, Candace
It's a pleasure.
especially.
It's a pleasure.
I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe, and comment what you want to see next. Until next time.